which we can distend an object. And in this case, when we talk about an object, we're talking about our lungs, okay? So let's write it up here. These, we'll just say that an object distends or expands, it's kind of the same thing. And we're talking about our lungs. Because whenever we hear the word compliance, always think we're referring to our lungs. Okay? So when we write compliance, it's usually a capital C, but it can also be a capital C with a lowercase l, a capital C with an S, or a capital C with a SAT, or SAT. Those all refer to compliance. Okay? You guys actually have a slip that you were handed out, so some of this information is on there in case you get confused. Okay? Now, we have a formula that we use because we actually calculate compliance. We don't, on some ventilators, you can actually go and look and see what the compliance is, but you need to know the formula in order to calculate it. So the formula, does anybody want to give it out to me?
Raw equals PIP minus plateau.
So if it's raw, that's resistance. We're going to talk about that.
So C
Oh,
stat.
that's resistance, sorry.
So C stat
Tidal volume over
equals
plateau
tidal volume
pressure
divided by.
Okay, so tidal volume, does everybody understand that V with a little t means tidal volume?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, and if I put an E, a little lowercase e next to it, that means specifically exhale tidal volume. So when we are working on the ventilator, we always set a tidal volume, but what's more important is to look at what is the exhale, what's coming back out from the ventilator, right? Then we're gonna do V plat minus P. Okay, and our units, because this is something that really is important to know, what are the units of measurements. When you're wanting to know or writing your answers, you have to include your units. So I'm just gonna write them a little bit lower. So it's, because it's a tidal volume, it's milliliters per centimeter of water pressure. Okay? So a normal, go back to the beginning. So when I say normal, I mean what's a normal value?
30,
Is anything greater
greater,
than
anything greater than 30 milliliters.
30 milliliters per centimeter of water pressure? Okay. And actually, when we're talking about compliance, the bigger the number, the better. So if I have a compliance, we'll say of 60, that's fabulous. If I have a compliance of 20, that's bad. Okay, so the bigger the number, the better. Okay, so for me, sometimes this is kind of a hard concept for me to wrap my head around because it starts talking about physics and it's easy to see the numbers and be like, what does that mean? So the best way that I can describe it is if you think of a rubber band, because I know, jumping back for a second, in your book it talks about compliance is the opposite or the inverse of elastance. And you said, well, what does that really mean? So it's just meaning that it's just the complete polar opposite. If I have this rubber band in my pocket, right, and I stretch it, as I'm stretching it, I can feel it has this tendency to want to bounce back. Compliance would be if I took this rubber band and I stretch it and I have to hold it open, I can feel that it's taking pressure for me to hold it open, and that is the compliance. If I relax my fingers, it bounces back to its original shape. So that's why you'll see it say compliance is the inverse of elastance. Does everybody understand that? Does it make a little bit of sense? If not, say so, and we'll kind of keep trying to work through it. Okay? Back to this formula, the most important part is P-plat. Okay? So if I erase some of this to write a little bit more, is that okay, or you guys want me to go over it?
Erase it.
There's no- Has anybody come across what P-plat means, or could you define it?
It's the inspiratory peak.
It's
Plateau.
Pressure difference between the static of the body and.
Here, wait, Paris, say it a little bit louder.
Speak
I'm
up.
trying to hear you.
I want to say that it's the zero pressure between the body and the airway.
Kind of.
Can't remember the exact definition. It's a lot of reading.
So,
But it stands, plateau stands for something else.
so P-plat is just another name for plateau pressure. And what it is a measurement of, kind of like Perry's saying, is it's pressure inside the lung when there isn't any air movement going on. So it would be the same as if I told you, taking a big deep breath and hold your breath. And we want to see what's that pressure that it takes to keep your lungs inflated. Okay? The way that we do it, or how do we achieve it, is we actually put an inspiratory hold or a pause on a breath. Okay? So it requires an inspiratory hold, or we'll call it a pause. So on all your ventilators, have you guys seen there's a button that usually probably on the face or somewhere about it that will say inspiratory hold or inspiratory pause? Okay. So what you would do is you would try to time it or coordinate it so that the breath is gonna come in, you're gonna actually pause it or hold that breath, and you're gonna release it. What it looks like, when we talk about waveforms, I'm warning you now, I'm a terrible artist, so don't giggle too much, okay? But we're gonna assume the breath is gonna come in, we're gonna see our shark fin, right? And a normal breath, right, cycles into exhalation. In this case, I'm gonna have a breath come in, I'm gonna put that pause on there, and it might come down a little bit, and then it's gonna trail across, and then it's gonna cycle into exhalation. This right here is our plateau, from here to here. Okay. So, if we were to go back to our formula, can I erase this guy? No, wait, no. Let me check my notes to make sure I haven't forgotten anything consequential.
Sure.
Yes.
How long does that last when you hit that button?
So, if it's one that you have to manually hold, I would say hold it for like 3 to 5 seconds. So it requires you to usually release it. If you don't, it's gonna extend that plateau. So imagine our patients are already sick and their lungs have problems. If you hold that, they're holding their breath for the rest of that. So as you're holding the button, maybe count in your head to 3 or 5. And you'll actually have to look on your screen, usually in the values, it'll say P-plat, and it'll give you the number for that. So you have to remember what that number is, because your P-plat is gonna be different than your PIP. Okay? Okay, so we're gonna work through just a couple equations so you can see it. Actually, I'll come down here then. I can't do nothing with my head. Does everybody understand what I've covered so far?
I think so.
Yeah. Yep. So, we're gonna go back to compliance is equals to, what was our formula again? So exhaled tidal volume
Over P flat subtracted.
minus P.
And always accessory number.
Yes, it's the same. So wait, what are the questions, or why are you guys? Does anybody have a question? Okay, so in this case, I'm gonna give you a couple values. We're gonna say our tidal volume is 500. Our plateau is 20. And our peak is 5, right? So if I plug it in, 500 over 15 is equal to, is that 30? Sorry. Well, I jumped a step, that's where I got the 20 minus 5, so it's 33? 33? Thank you. So 500. So it's 33 milliliters per centimeter of water pressure. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, yes, our compliance is normal because what's our normal range? Anything greater than 30. But in layman terms, what this means is that for every 1 centimeter of pressure, I'm delivering, and I'll get out of the way so you guys, I'm delivering 30 mLs of a breath, but I need to deliver 500. So now, Mr. Sewell, it's 33, 500 divided by 33.
15. 15 times 33 is
Yes.
500.
Oh, 15, sorry, I can't. So it's gonna, no wait, that's not right. Sorry, guys. Math is my enemy. Oh, here we go. Sorry, I'm gonna change my formula to the one that I practice with. Okay. So my plateau,
You have to show me more.
somehow in this case, my plateau was 10. Okay. So my answer here is 100 mLs per centimeter of water pressure. So for every 1 centimeter of water pressure, right, I'm delivering 100 mLs of a breath. So what that means is for me to deliver this total tidal volume is gonna take 5 centimeters of water pressure to deliver my 500 ml breath. Okay, yes?
Is that the set rate of tidal volume?
A set rate?
Or is it just reading?
It's a set rate,
Set rate, okay.
right? Okay, so now in this other case, the only thing that I'm gonna change is my plateau pressure. But everything else is gonna stay the same. So I'm gonna still have, compliance is equal to, my tidal volume is 500. My P-plat in this case is 35. And my PIP still, my PEEP is still 5. So it's 500 divided by 30, which is gonna equal to 16.6 mLs per centimeter of water pressure. So is this a normal compliance?
No.
No, this is bad compliance, right? But what that means is, for every 1 centimeter of water pressure, right, I'm only delivering 16 16.6 mLs of a breath, but I need to deliver 500. So it's gonna take a total of 30 centimeters of water pressure to deliver the 500 mLs. Does that kind of make sense? No? It doesn't?
So currently it's 1 centimeter of water is giving the 16.6 ml.
Right,
And you're saying it's gonna take 30 centimeters of water to deliver the 500?
yes, in this case, because the only thing that's changed here is our plateau. So you can see my plateau, whenever my plateau is a big number, it indicates bad compliance,
Oh, okay.
right? And that's, in this case, I have a low plateau, meaning the lungs can stretch very easily, so I can deliver the tidal volume using less pressure.
So we know we have a plateau problem, but wouldn't you just up the peak? Because when you have low compliance, you just up the peak.
Yes and no. So if you up the peak, you're still gonna be left with a high plateau.
So you
So
have
yes, the
increased
difference will be a little bit different. The increase in the peak would help, but it's not gonna resolve the issue completely.
Right. 15, 20. Because if you upped it to a peak of 15, that'll put you right at 30. Right?
30 is just basically that
Yes,
minus that,
but
that's what you take.
you're right, you
Right?
can increase the peak, but that's still not gonna really improve your compliance that much.
Well, it was just calculation for compliance.
Well,
I mean,
for-
we know that they have low compliance
Right.
on or treating it, so.
Right.
So, on that one, how would you correct it? You would correct it by, with the